I want to bring on New York State Assemblyman Andy Goodell, who is joining us live in studio, originally scheduled to talk about what the impeachment process against the governor would look like, Assemblyman. But obviously now that more than likely going to come to an end when he does resign. For you, what's your initial reaction to the news today?
Well, I think the governor did the right thing by resigning. Obviously, the impeachment process really takes all the focus of the legislature and would have taken the focus of the legislature for the next several months. And that is a real serious impediment to addressing the serious issues that face New York State. And so I think that was the right thing to do. I think it was the right thing to do for the state of New York. I also think it was the right thing to do for the governor personally. No one wants to go down in history as being only the second governor in the entire history of the state of New York to be impeached. And it was pretty clear that the Assembly Judiciary Committee was moving forward with an impeachment investigation that included not just the sexual harassment claims, but the nursing home order that sent COVID-positive patients into the nursing home, resulting in New York State having some of the highest death rates. The governor's clear abuse of the state police and the state health department by having personal tests done of his close relatives and friends, and having the state police drive those test results to Albany and prioritizing those testing at a time when those people that would not have qualified for that testing. Hiding and covering up the true nursing home deaths at the same time that he was negotiating a $5 million book deal. And of course, there were a lot of allegations that he used state employees, state equipment, state resources to help write that book, resulting in a $5 million book deal, while lining his own pocket, in a sense, at state expense. So putting all that aside, resigning now enables New York State to focus on addressing the serious issues that we have. And there are a number of hearings that were held this morning. I attended one, of course, by Zoom, dealing with rental eviction moratorium and the impact on small landlords and the efforts of the state to get funding out to help everyone. And those are important issues that need to be addressed. And so I think it's the right thing for the governor to do, and I applaud him for resigning.
Yeah, and he mentioned those issues briefly during his remarks a little bit ago, that he didn't want to distract from that, and this definitely has distracted from that over the last 6 months here, from the beginning of the allegations into the nursing homes as well. And I know there's still a lot of people out there who want him to be held accountable in some sense, whether it's for the alleged sexual harassment or nursing home handling or the preferential treatment to his family. For you, do you know if those fronts will still be pursued, looking into, and if corroborating those, taking action in some sense?
The resignation by the governor does not automatically stop any of the other criminal investigations. So you have the Albany County Sheriff investigating the allegations that he physically groped a young woman in his office. That investigation is not tied to his resignation. So his resignation will stop the impeachment process, but it won't stop any of the other criminal or civil investigations. And as you know, some of the sexual harassment victims have also started civil lawsuits suing the governor for damages. And so those lawsuits will continue. Those are independent.
Yeah, and as for the nursing home, I know that there were a few hearings in Albany previously about that, trying to address what happened with the governor's staff. I know you and Senator Borrello have been outspoken, along with Congressman Tom Reed. The DOJ has looked into it. Do you know if this is something you're going to continue to push for and fight for even after the governor is out of office, or is that a moot point?
Well, the investigation of the governor's role in that will likely be a moot point now that he's resigned, but I anticipate that you'll see legislation that's already passed the Senate and the Assembly, by the way, that will be signed into law that addresses the fact that there was a cover-up. And so those aspects of that will continue forward. I also have, as you know, legislation dealing with the extent of emergency powers that a governor can exercise. And the legislation I've introduced has a number of checks and balances designed to make sure that we don't go off the rails during a pandemic and forget about due process and transparency, which unfortunately happened during the last year. So those other legislative pieces I hope will continue to move forward.
Yeah, it sounds like corrective action to try to prevent something where you have just full executive power, which we did see during the height of the COVID emergency, which many said was warranted. However, I know you've been vocal about it, that it's lasted so long, over a year, where he was still in charge of the executive chamber, making overnight decisions, which in some cases had the weight of law.
Actually, as you know, I was very vocal right from the very beginning that I thought the exercise of emergency power was too broad. So, for example, the governor shut down Chautauqua County's economy at a time when we didn't have a single case, not one reported case, and he shut down the entire county. Back then, I wrote to the governor and said, Governor, you need to be more nuanced. You need to recognize that when you shut down a county and throw thousands of people out of work, you're creating some real serious problems for thousands of families. And so throughout the process, I was urging the governor to be more precise, more focused, and more limited in the exercise of his executive authority, his emergency authority. And as you know, Senator Brello and I helped draft the reopening plan. And I was very thankful at that point in time that the governor recognized that the reopening plan should be based by region, not statewide. And that was a huge benefit, helping us get back reopened here in Chautauqua County and in Western New York.
Yeah, and I know one of the vital persons who will be taking a much greater role now, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, going to be serving as interim governor. I'd imagine until the election next year. Do you know if there will be a special election or if that would continue until the end of his term?
Kathy Hochul will serve as the governor through the end of next year. And who knows, she may run in her own right and be elected as governor. That's very good news for Chautauqua County. P.J. Wendell, our county executive, has been having weekly phone calls with Kathy Hochul because she ran the control group on the COVID response for all of Western New York. And so he has a very, very good and very close working relationship with Kathy Hochul. And I would point out that when Senator Brello and I submitted our proposal for reopening New York State by a regional basis, I placed a call to Kathy Hochul on Friday, and Saturday morning I got a call back from her saying she read it, she thought it was a great idea, and she was pitching it to the governor on our behalf. So having Kathy Hochul in as governor will be positive, I believe, for Western New York. She's very accessible, a very, very hard worker, and I think she'll do well as our next governor.